Hello, everyone. This is Jay Allenby, President of Safe Harbors Business Travel. And I'm really excited to have you back with us again for our Travel Expert Series number 6. And in this event, we're having Beverley Hunt. She's our Operations Director at Safe Harbors. Welcome, Beverley.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me today.
So we're really excited to have you with us. And part of the conversation we're going to talk about today, Beverley, you're in the soup. You're in the midst of it, with your staff, your travel advisors, and all the people you're involved with, and they're seeing all the good, the bad, and the ugly taking place. So over the next 20, 30 minutes or so, we're going to kind of go over some of those things that you're seeing and how we're helping clients. So thank you for being with us.
Of course, absolutely.
All right. So on a personal note. We've all been separated. You haven't been in the office. Everyone's working from home remotely, observing the governor's rules. What have you been up to the past couple of months?
Well, obviously working from home and organizing my house. I think every closet, cupboard, nook, and cranny is completely organized. A lot of Zoom happy hours with friends. I'm a pretty social person, and so that's been a really, really difficult part of this. Plus not being in the office. We have a really tight office environment. Everyone gets along really well, and not seeing people on a daily basis. It's not the same as calling in, having a quick call in the middle of the work day. So I've been doing that. I'm really fortunate where I live. There's a little kind of pool grill area that a few of us in the neighborhood have been social distancing and sitting outside just to be able to have some human interaction, personally, which has been I've been pretty fortunate. Yeah.
Now I need to get an invitation to come down there for this.
I know.
Sounds good. So, all right. So how about some good news? What's going on? Give us some really good news.
Well, this has been a really tough time for our industry, but I really feel I can see some light at the end of the tunnel. ASTA, the American Society of Travel Agents, have been amazing advocates for the travel industry and has helped us get some real strong government support and funding when it was really, really needed. Cities and states and countries are starting to open up their borders. Airlines are starting to add more flights in because we had a lot of flight cancellations, and travelers are starting to look to the future and to making plans and to start to travel again.
Yeah, you're spot on about ASTA. They really have done a super job in representing the industry, advocating for us with respect to legislators and really making it work. So thank you for bringing that out, and kudos to them. We had Zane Kirby on, as you know,
I did, yeah.
on the last conversation, and very exciting to see what they're doing. They're continuing to help us.
Absolutely, been extremely helpful for our industry.
So our current state that we're in today, how has it impacted our world? What are we doing?
Well, business came to a virtual stop. There was a lot of confusion on cancellations and policies and refunds. There was a lot of schedule changes, schedule-related issues that as a TMC, we needed to be on top of to be able to relay that information to our clients and be that support that our clients needed. Because every airline is different. Every airline has a different policy on a refund or a cancellation, or if their schedule changes, how quickly do you need to reschedule onto another flight, that type of thing. So as a travel agency, we've had to keep on top of all of these policies and all of these constant changes. I can't think of a time in my career in this industry where there's been so many constant changes. Policies that might have been in place in February and March when this first started happening are completely different than they were in April and then in May, and now we're getting into June and things are changing on a daily basis. So I think it's been huge for our industry, and I think having a good TMC behind you or a good quality travel agent has been really, really helpful for our business travelers, because it's really hard for a regular consumer to be able to look and figure out what's happening with their airline or their car rental or their hotel during these times, because it's unheard of. It's just unprecedented.
It's interesting you bring that up. And first of all, my hat's off to you and the team for really dissecting all the information, all the notifications we get, and in some cases, they're very confusing. That most, for example, there's an airline, we won't mention them right now, but they send that information, and nobody really knows at that airline what those details are. And for you to get that information out, and which guidelines do you follow and which parameters, hats off to you in how you manage that, but also communicate that with account management and Tamara out and her team out to our clients.
Yeah, we are definitely not struggling to keep up, but it is a constant and every single day process you have to watch every day because the rules are changing that quickly. And not only that, when they change, it's also getting that information out to our clients. We've been very good about having email blasts out to the clients on a regular basis, relaying the information that we have to our account management team, who are able to then relay that to our clients, as well as our agents being on top of what's happening on a regular basis so that they know when they're talking to their traveler, hey, by the way, if you book this particular airline before June 30th, you can change this ticket with no penalties for X amount of time. And those types of things are what's beneficial to the travelers and what makes the TMC very, very useful during a crisis like this.
So some specifics, if I recall, maybe you can go into further detail. Unused tickets or tickets that can be applied for future, most of them have expanded from 1 year to 2 years, correct?
Yeah, actually, it really kind of depends. Unused tickets generally are valid for 1 year from the date of the time that they are issued. Currently, and once again, every airline is slightly different. Some airlines are saying if you booked your ticket and your ticket was supposed to expire during this time frame, you have another year to use it. Tickets that are being issued now, you have up to 2 years to use it. So a lot of the tickets have expanded through September of 2022. It really depends on the airline. As I said, everyone's slightly different, but there's a lot of there's been a lot of extensions to these types of policies and a lot of help from the airlines for the traveler.
Thus, again, adding to the confusion with every carrier being inconsistent and having their own policies. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have a very, very good team. And really it's a matter of making sure that we're all aware of these policies. You know, we meet weekly, that we get emails on a daily basis. I attend seminars with all of our major carriers, American, Delta, United, all have, we have a very, very strong relationship with our suppliers. So we're very fortunate. So they are having seminars on a weekly basis to tell us what's new, what's changing, what maybe if they had previously stopped service to a certain destination, what date is it going to start, where they're going to start traveling there again, all of those things. And that information is relayed amongst the team. We've got our emails that come in on a regular basis, and then we try to keep the travelers as informed as possible without overloading them on these changes.
Yeah, that's a critical feature. The fact that our relationships with the suppliers is so strong.
Yeah.
You know, we have the communication, they're giving us some additional information, in some cases, some additional support. So those relationships are tremendous.
The relationships are huge, especially during a time like this. To have those relationships, you know, I can call our sales rep and, you know, they know me by name, I know them by name, and they're very willing to help us because of our past relationship with them and just because of the business that we've given them in the past. So we've been very, very fortunate to have those. And I think because of that, we're on sort of not the cutting edge, but we're the first to know as to what's happening within the industry with all of these different carriers and suppliers.
So I'll jump ahead a little bit. How flexible are you finding suppliers these days?
You know, with what's happening, I think they're being very, very flexible. Domestic carriers, much more so than some of our international carriers. When I say flexible, you know, you're having up to 2 years to use your tickets if you're not comfortable traveling right now, or if your conference has been canceled, they're giving you 2 years. That's been very, very helpful. Some of the larger international carriers aren't being quite as flexible. They're allowing you to use your tickets for a certain amount of time, but you may not get a refund, or you may still have to pay a penalty to use it at a later date. So, but I would say they're being very flexible, even with our hotel suppliers, negotiating contracts for, if you book a group, there's generally, you know, an attrition policy. You have to book by a certain date. If you don't have as many travelers, you start to incur penalties. Those are all being waived, and they're just letting everyone move their entire group to next year. So I would say with the current environment, I think that they're being incredibly flexible as they can be. and they want our travelers to be safe. And I think that's been a big focus. It's been a big focus of all of the meetings that I've had with our suppliers, is the traveler safety moving forward.
What are you hearing from travelers? What are they talking about? Any particular stories as they're traveling? Confusion? What are you hearing?
Well, there's confusion in the fact, obviously, regarding their change policies, because a lot of travelers purchase non-refundable tickets because it's the least expensive, the most economical way to travel for their corporate account, and what those rules are. And there's been some confusion on the airlines have changed their schedules quite a bit. So you may have had 5 or 6 flights to a destination, and now you might have one a day, and maybe a connection. Last week I booked a traveler, and he actually had to travel the day prior because he was coming from a very small airport that just wasn't servicing travelers on an every single day basis at that time. You know, in the next couple of weeks, you could see things are changing, that where flights are going back to a more normal schedule. But I think that that's kind of what we're hearing. When people are traveling, they're actually saying the travel is quite easy. Now, a lot of that is probably because, you know, there's not as many travelers, actually, active travelers at the moment. But that, you know, people are wearing their masks and people are taking their precautions, and a little bit more time is being needed at TSA, just because they're asking you more questions about where have you been? Have you had any kind of symptoms? How are you feeling? That type of thing. But all in all, we're not having any real issues with people that are comfortable enough to fly. They've felt safe when they've been on the planes, and I think that's really huge. I've seen a lot of videos of airline safety, how they're cleaning the planes, how they're coupling with Lysol and those types of companies to clean out the planes after every single landing, not just at the end of a day. And that the flight attendants are now required to wear masks, and travelers are now required to wear their masks. Some airlines, when you get on board, are giving you a Clorox wipe so that even though they've cleaned the plane for you, you're confident enough that you can go sit down and wipe down your seating area if you're not that comfortable. So they're doing a lot, and I think that is helping to alleviate the travelers' fears once they've done it once. It's that first time people are a little bit nervous about.
So, so what I understand, though, there's still not a whole lot of consistency. So you have one airline, they have their policies, their guidelines. They'll block one airline, for example, we spoke with Delta a few weeks ago. They're blocking out all of their center seats. No questions about it, all center seats. But I don't believe that's consistent with other carriers, right?
Not consistent. And I think
No.
that's what the theme that we found across this entire crisis is, that there's no real consistency. Delta is blocking out center seats. United Airlines is trying to keep everyone away from a center seat unless you're traveling together. If for some reason the flight sells to the point up to 75% capacity, no, it was 70%, I apologize, 70% capacity, they will call the travelers to let them know their plane is at 70% capacity, and they will reschedule them to another flight. But there is the possibility that, you know, you'll be on a plane where you might be seated next to somebody next to you. All carriers at this point are trying to avoid that at all costs, but certain airlines are saying, hey, we're going to make sure that it happens, and another airlines are saying, we'll call you to let you know if this is the case. You could get to the airport and they might say, hey, we're at 70% capacity. Do you want to take a later flight? If they haven't had a chance to reach you because they've suddenly had an increase in bookings. So it isn't real consistent, but I know that the airlines are all doing their best to take the precautions needed. It's more consistent across airports, saying, okay, these areas need to be safe and these areas need to be clean and that type of thing. And then each airline is responsible for their own, per se, their own check-in areas.
Yeah, I understand that those who have Clear, who use Clear going through TSA, that my understanding is they're not using the finger option. When you put the 2 fingers for the fingerprint option, where you're just doing eyes, so it can be completely touchless going through.
Yeah, and I've heard that Southwest Airlines had a lot of that, the touched check-in. A lot of airports you go to that's really the main way you check in rather than go up to the counter. And they've removed all of those temporarily until this is all over and you have to go into the gate. But it's still touchless, but you have to speak to a person rather than everybody in the airport touching the same screens.
Yeah.
So it is not real consistent, but
Right.
I think that we're going to find that
Yeah.
unless the government steps in and says we have to have a certain type of standard across the board.
So
We're
that leads me into my next comment. I had the conversation with Zane Kirby of ASTA last week, and we talked about that. Until there's some kind of ruling or guidance that comes from CDC to DOT, FAA, and TSA, you're going to have each supplier airline doing their own policies. And
absolutely.
I'm a firm believer there's got to be some consistency in this. And for example, after 9/11, TSA came out and they put in consistent policies. Anytime after that, it was just went across the board. So I think it's absolutely critical for moving forward. That has to be some kind of consistency.
I agree. I think there needs to be consistency, also for everyone's comfort level. You know, I want to know that if I'm flying on Southwest, I'm going to get the same level of safety protection as I am if I'm flying on American or Delta or United, or Lufthansa per se, whatever airline it might be. I think it needs to kind of be if you're flying in the United States, these are what our expectations are. From somewhere like the CDC. I do think something like that needs to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where we're going for TSA check-in, where there's going to be temperature checks and health certificates required, that type of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes down the road. I know that this is all so new for all of us. I think that TSA are looking at what's happening and how do we make it better and how do we change this to be safer for the people of this country.
Yeah, yeah. So we're all speaking with our clients. Tamara, Vice President Account Management, is speaking with clients. You're speaking with clients. Our staff, everybody's speaking with clients. What's your sense? What's your sense of when companies and travelers are going to increase their travel? What's going to be the trigger?
You know, we are starting to see a slight increase. We're definitely seeing it. I think domestic is going to open up first. And I think that, you know, as I say, we're seeing an increase now. I'm thinking August, September, we should have some real domestic numbers start to climb. Internationally, our clients, some are saying October, November time, but some are saying 2021, the beginning of 2021. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on how this virus plays out if we don't have another surge of it, and how safe that the airplanes are and the travelers that are currently traveling. These are the ones that are actually doing it, and they are all talking to your friends. That, you know, you talk to two people who talks to two people, and so on and so on. And when they're having good experiences and they come back and they feel that they've traveled safely, that is going to be a key, I think, for other travelers. I know when I've been out and I've heard people talking, that's sort of what they're talking about, how their travel, how they had an easy experience, how they didn't feel unsafe. They felt like every precaution had been taken. And I think that for everyone to feel confident, that's when we'll have some real travel moving back. We do have, and we have companies that are traveling now. You know, there are some industries that, you know, require face-to-face or project work where you have to be there. And all of those travelers so far, I haven't had anyone come back and say, hey, you know what, I really didn't feel comfortable. We have seen an uptick in car rentals and hotels. So rather than taking that quick day trip, we have people that are driving and spending the night and driving home. We're noticing an uptick in that. But business, you know, life's going to move on, and we have to start to move forward and figure out the best way for everyone for businesses to be successful and for the economy to open back up and for us all to feel safe doing it. So it's going to be a process, but we'll definitely get there.
So Beverly, you mentioned something about, for example, air. You know, moving forward, as we look forward, people taking flights, potentially temperature checks, people wearing masks, and there are going to be some other additional policies and changes come along. Then hotel. Many hotels right now are not offering what they included were breakfasts.
Yeah. A lot of the hotels, there've been a lot of changes in their policies. Breakfasts are not included. Amenities may not be available. The laundry, we had somebody last week, the laundry was not available and the fitness center was closed. So these are things that will eventually come back. I'm not sure about the buffet breakfast type thing. I've heard of a hotel that they're doing sort of like a boxed breakfast. You can just grab and go. It's going to be more something like that rather than having an open buffet or having the gyms open, but eventually we'll get back there, you know, as we can understand what's going on in our industry a little bit more, and as each hotel figures out, okay, we're going to have somebody on staff that's going to clean this room after every time somebody uses the gym. You know, so it's just going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, there's going to be some changes that our travelers and especially our road warriors are going to notice. But you know, it's up for it's up for us to make them feel comfortable. You know, that's our TMC job, is to make them feel comfortable that they can book their air in their car in their hotel, and they're going to get to their destination safely, and they're going to be staying in a clean property, and that Enterprise Rental Car has done everything they can to make that car safe and clean, and then they'll build their confidence back, I think.
Yeah, I know Enterprise National, they send out a lot of communication about what they're doing to keep their cars and their process clean as well. I think there's something that we probably should talk about, are supplier bankruptcies. And that's certainly on the corporate side. You know, as we're speaking about car, that's Hertz. You know, Hertz has been around for a long, long time. They're an extremely well-established company. They were struggling over the past couple of years anyway, and this really was something that has forced them into a bankruptcy. But what are we doing for advice for our clients when it comes to working with bankrupt suppliers?
Well, well, the agents are all aware if the person requests Hertz or Avianca Airlines, and there's a couple of others that have filed for bankruptcy protection. They actually haven't gone bankrupt, but they're in that bankruptcy protection stage, so they're still operating. So we're advising the travelers when they book, but if somebody books on our online booking tool, all of our itineraries have a notification that states on it, you have booked a carrier or a supplier that is under bankruptcy protection right now. If you're comfortable traveling with them, fantastic. If not, please reach out. We're happy to rebook you onto another carrier, with another supplier. We're having an email alert that goes out to each traveler when they book a supplier that is in that situation, just to keep everybody aware. It doesn't mean that the company's not going to make it through, but we want to make sure you're aware so that nobody's caught in a situation that they don't expect.
Yeah, yep. And the best we can do is notify. You know,
The best we can do is notify them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you're exactly right. They're in bankruptcy protection. They're still in business, but that's basically notification. So another topic that's been going on for years, quite a while, is the shared economy. You have Airbnb, you have Uber, you have Lyft, you have all those products out there. I think if anyone or if any part of the business, that's a significant area that could be impacted through this current environment.
I think it's going to be greatly impacted. I mean, I've noticed already that our car rentals are up during a time like this. What our expectations were and what they currently are. And I think because you have companies such as National and Avis and these type of companies that have set, and also the hotels, Marriott, Hilton's, have set state safety precautions and requirements for their properties and for their cars and for, you know, their business. And when you're looking at a Lyft or an Airbnb or an Uber, these are all individually owned, and not that they're not clean, but they're just cleaned in a different way. They don't have the strict standards that a large chain has in order to maintain their business. So we were seeing we were seeing some of our clients take a Lyft or take an Uber rather than a rental car. Or stay in an Airbnb because it was, you know, they liked the idea of something a little kitschier in a certain town. And I think we're going to see that not go away, but I think there's going to be a pullback from that a little bit. I think that's going to hurt those industries a little bit, because travelers are going to want, especially a corporate traveler, but travelers are going to want to stay somewhere where they know that Marriott is working with this particular Clorox or what per se, you know, and they have a protocol for every single room and for their hotels and for their restaurants and for their public areas. And National Enterprise have a protocol for every single car when it's returned back to them. And I think that's going to be a confidence and a comfort level that our travelers are going to require.
Yeah. We already touched on some governmental policies that could be coming down the road, and they should be coming down the road, more or less for consistency. We talked about everything from face masks to temperature checks to whatever happens at TSA. Anything outside of that that you think in your crystal ball might come down?
You know, it's really hard. That it truly is a crystal ball. I mean,
Yeah.
we're learning new every single day, new policies, new procedures, and new changes. So it's really hard to say. I really don't know, because I never thought we would be at this part here right now. I mean, to me, this it's so surreal what we've gone through these past couple of months as a company, as a nation, and as the whole world. It's just surreal that this has gone on. So to try and figure out the future, I don't know. I think that as an agency, I feel that our travelers we're going to see more travelers reaching directly out to a full service agent rather than using an online booking tool, more so for that confidence level, that comfort that the hotel is going to have the amenities that I need, and that my car is going to be there, because some car rentals they closed during this time because people weren't traveling.
Mhm.
Or that if there is an airline schedule change at the last minute that we saw happen all over the world, someone's going to be watching it for me and be able to take care of me and protect me and get me home. I think we're going to see a lot of that. We're finding, you know, when this all happened, we have a lot of expats. A lot of our corporate accounts have expats. We had people all
Right.
over the world, and borders were closing. And, you know, the president was saying people have to get back to this country immediately, and flights weren't available. And we were trying to get people from, you know, Addis, like all over the world, to get them back to the United States. And you can't do that on an online booking tool. And you can't do that when there's a crisis and an emergency, and you know, you have to fly through different countries, and you have to know, can I fly through this country with my visa because there's COVID restrictions. So I think a lot of that, the travelers, the confidence level they had quickly, easily going on to Expedia and making a reservation for themselves is going to pull back a little bit, because they're really going to want an expert to make sure that their travel is well taken care of, that it's flawless, and that at the end of the day, they've got someone that's going to help them in an emergency.
Spot on. Spot on. You know, I my takeaways from this conversation today is, and I guess time flies when you're having fun, is when you think about when you think about a couple months ago, exactly what you were saying, people trying to get home, whether it be internationally or even domestically, trying to get back because of the unknown. You know, our border's going to be closed, our airport's going to be closed, and trying to bring people back to their families, to their companies, to whomever. What really was the planes, trains, and automobiles type of exercise.
It was, yes,
Yeah,
chaos.
yeah, it was chaos, maybe controlled chaos, but it was chaos. We
Chaos.
controlled here, but it's chaos out there. But you know, with that, I cannot be more prouder. My pride for you and the rest of the staff for pulling that off was absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible, you know, bringing our clients back. And we heard it. Our clients, they all said, hey, so thank you. Thank you so much for getting us back and bringing us back during this crazy period of unknown. And hopefully we're starting to come out of that unknown. You know, my takeaway is, one, the first thing was bringing everybody back during that period. Also was the confusion, you know, the confusion that has taken place during that time and still continues to take place, but the confusion with respect to airline policies or supplier policies in general, and then filtering that information back out to the clients. And the third thing probably is really preparing our clients for the future of what it's going to look like out there. And we're doing everything we can, because that future, as we see it from the optics from our suppliers, changes on a daily basis. So we often see people say, hey, prepare for the future. Well, you know what? That foundation still isn't even there yet to prepare. So we're doing everything we can to build on that too. So all in all, very, very proud of everything you and your team and everybody else did, and taking care of our clients.
Thanks. We've got a really great team. I mean, to all travel agents out there, this is a really trying time for our industry. And we are learning every single day what we need to do to take care of our clients. So it's been a learning experience for all of us.
Yeah, that it has. We thought we went through it all. We've been through 9/11. We've been through SARS. We've been through all those things, economic downturn, but this was the granddaddy.
This one's the prize.
That's for sure. Beverley Hunt, Director of Operations at Safe Harbors Business Travel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks
You've,
so much.
you've been wonderful and really added a lot of good insights in the operations and how we're helping our clients. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Stay tuned for us for next week. Next week, we'll be having Tammy Routh with Marriott International. She is the Senior Vice President of Global Sales. And she's going to give some really good insight into what's going on with the hotels, how they're dealing with it today, and then how we're moving forward to the future. So we'll ask about their future and how they're building, preparing their travelers, their guests, and staying in their property. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks again, Beverly.
You're welcome. Thank you.